Justice is often depicted as a blindfolded woman. The blindfold symbolizes impartiality, the promise that you will be judged for your actions, not for who you are, where you come from, or what you appear to be. But what if beneath the blindfold there were no human eyes, but a sensor? And what if the scales weighed not facts, but probabilities? Today, we will explore one of the most silent and impactful advancements of our time, one that is transforming the present. The rise of predictive justice, AI systems that don't wait for your mistake to judge you. They analyze your past, your present, and the data of millions of others to calculate the probability of your next move. The lingering question is terrifying in its simplicity. In a world governed by algorithms, are you still innocent until proven guilty? You've never committed fraud. Your credit history is flawless. Yet your home loan was denied. The bank's response is vague. Does not meet risk criteria. Elsewhere, a recent graduate with top grades doesn't make it past the first round of a job application. The automated email offers no explanation. What they don't know is that an invisible judge has already passed sentence. An algorithm analyzed their data, the neighborhood they live in, the schools they attended, their social media connections, and calculated a risk score. This digital gavel doesn't judge what you did. It judges what you might do. It compares you to a pattern, a statistical shadow of thousands of people who at some point failed. And in this new court, resemblance is enough to convict you. You were tried and sentenced without ever having the chance to defend yourself. In the digital universe, you are not you. You are a dataset, a shadow profile that lives on the servers of companies you barely know. Every website you visit, every purchase you make, every like you give adds another brushstroke to your phantom portrait. Your zip code, your browsing history, the time you spend looking at an image. It all feeds a model that predicts your behavior. It knows if you're prone to impulse spending, if you're likely to develop a chronic illness, or if your profile resembles that of someone who has committed a crime. This digital avatar precedes you in every interaction. When you apply for a loan, it's the first thing the bank evaluates. When you apply for a job, it's what the company's HR scans. We are slowly building a world where your reputation is no longer based on your character, but on the qualities of your data and an algorithm's interpretation of it. Why does an algorithm become such a harsh and often unfair judge? The answer lies in its diet. An AI learns from the past. And if the past is marked by inequality, the AI will become an expert in perpetuating it. This is what scientist Timnit Gebru, co-founder of the Black in AI group, has tirelessly warned about. If a criminal justice system has historically arrested more people of a certain ethnicity or from a particular neighborhood, the training data will reflect that. The AI won't understand the social context or systemic prejudice. It will only learn a cold correlation. People with this profile are a higher risk. This is the original sin of data. Human bias, historical discrimination, is laundered of its dirty origin and repackaged as an objective mathematical truth. The machine doesn't invent prejudice, it automates and amplifies it, giving it a veneer of neutrality that makes it even more dangerous. Let's open the hood and see how this sentence is engineered. Why is this technical skill so relevant? Because understanding the machinery is the first step to controlling it. A data scientist, using the Python programming language, can build a predictive justice model in a few hours. First, they use libraries like pandas to import and clean huge datasets, credit histories, criminal records, demographic data. Then with NumPy, they transform this data into numerical arrays the machine can understand. The heart of the process is a library like scikit-learn, where they can train a classification model, such as logistic regression. The model analyzes thousands of cases where the outcome is known, paid, or defaulted, reoffended or not, and learns to identify the patterns that lead to each result. The final product is a function that takes your data and spits out a probability: 87% chance of default, 75% risk of reoffending. Professionals who master these tools are in high demand, but the rarest skill is not programming the model, but questioning it. Amidst this dark landscape, there are voices seeking to use the same technology not to predict failure, but to build bridges. One of those voices is that of mathematician and computer scientist Rediat Abebe. Co-founder of the organization Mechanism Design for Social Good, she pioneers a new approach. How can we design algorithms that consider equity and social justice as core objectives? Her work investigates, for example, how to use AI to optimize the distribution of food aid, or to identify and mitigate biases in social welfare systems. Abebe forces us to change the question. Instead of, how can we predict risk? She asks, how can we use computation to understand and combat the root causes of inequality? She reminds us that an algorithm is a tool, and a tool can be used to build a wall or to tear one down. The choice is still in our hands. Now the critical moment. You've been denied, overlooked, judged. You want to appeal. Your lawyer asks the company, on what basis exactly did your algorithm make this decision? The answer is a wall of technical silence. The model is a deep neural network with millions of parameters. It's a black box. We cannot explain the exact logic for an individual decision. This is one of the greatest ethical and legal challenges of our era. How can there be a right to a fair defense if the accusation is inscrutable? How can we correct an error if we can't even identify its source? The opacity of these systems creates an absolute power imbalance. On one side, a corporation armed with technology it barely understands. On the other, an individual whose life has been impacted by a logic they have no right to know. Justice cannot be so blind as to ignore the need for transparency. A decision that cannot be explained should not be allowed. Theory becomes brutal practice on the streets of some cities. Predictive policing software uses historical crime data to generate heat maps, indicating areas where a crime is more likely to occur. Police then intensify patrols in these areas. It sounds logical, right? But think about the cycle it creates. More police in an area leads to more arrests for minor offenses, which in turn feeds the system with more crime data for that area. The heat map intensifies. The prophecy fulfills itself. Neighborhoods, often low income and minority, become trapped in a loop of surveillance and stigmatization. The AI isn't predicting crime. It's justifying the concentration of police force where it has always been. It's the algorithmic application of stop and frisk, where the mere fact of living in a certain zip code already makes you a potential suspect. In the 20th century, the practice of redlining used maps to deny financial services to entire neighborhoods, usually based on their racial composition. It was a literal red line drawn on a map. Today, that practice has returned, but in a much more subtle and powerful form. It's algorithmic redlining. The AI learns that people from certain zip codes are more likely to default on loans or file a car insurance claim. As a result, residents of these areas are offered worse credit terms, pay higher insurance premiums, or are simply denied access to certain services. The red line is no longer on paper. It's in the code. It's a form of digital segregation that is incredibly efficient and easy to deny. Companies can claim they don't use race or ethnicity in their models, but zip code, school history, and other data serve as perfect proxies for that information, recreating the same discriminatory barriers of the past with a new, aseptic technological justification. Behind the statistics and technical debates, there are lives. Think of the single mother who loses the chance to rent an apartment in a safe neighborhood because a tenant screening algorithm flags her as high risk based on her address history. Think of the ex-convict seeking a second chance, only to be systematically rejected by automated hiring systems that see his past as an indelible stain, ignoring any evidence of rehabilitation. Or consider the cases, documented in several countries, of social welfare systems cutting off benefits to vulnerable families on suspicion of fraud, based on data patterns that a human would never consider suspicious. The cost of a score isn't financial, it's dignity, hope, the chance to build a future. It's the crushing weight of being permanently defined by your worst day, or worse, by the mistakes of others who the algorithm believes are just like you. The greatest asset of algorithmic justice is also its biggest lie: the illusion of objectivity. We are sold the idea that by lacking emotions, the machine is a fairer judge than a human. But a prejudice doesn't need hatred to exist. A prejudice is, at its core, a shortcut, a pattern. And machines are the best tools for finding and applying patterns that humanity has ever invented. A human judge might have a bad day, but they can also feel empathy. They can look someone in the eye and see the context, the remorse, the potential. The algorithm sees none of that. It only sees the data it was given. It executes its logic with cold, relentless efficiency. Removing the human from the loop doesn't remove the bias. It just removes the possibility of mercy, of a second chance, of humanity. If we are building digital judges, we need regulators for them. This is where the figure of the algorithm auditor emerges, a field where experts like Raman Chowdhury, founder of Humane Intelligence, are at the forefront. Their work, and that of others like them, is like an ethical audit for AI. They use red teaming techniques, essentially trying to trick the algorithm, to find its flaws and hidden biases before they cause real-world harm. They question the training data, test the system with profiles of minority groups, and demand transparency from companies. This is a new professional and ethical frontier, integrating the technical skill of understanding models with the human competence of ethics and responsibility. It's not enough to build the AI. We must build the guardrails around it. Algorithmic auditing is the acknowledgement that trust in technology cannot be blind. It must be earned and constantly verified. We've reached the end, and the defendant is not the artificial intelligence, it is us. The algorithm that judges based on a zip code is just a mirror of our geographical prejudice. The system that punishes based on historical data is a reflection of our inability to correct the injustices of the past. Rediet Abebe shows us that the same tool can be used for equity. Raman Chowdhury proves that we can regulate our own creations. Predictive justice doesn't predict the future. It solidifies the past and projects it forward, making it inevitable. So the final question is not about the machine, it's about us. Will we continue to feed this system with the data of our failings, accepting its sentences as destiny? Or will we use the brutal clarity of this digital mirror to finally judge ourselves and rewrite the code for a more just society? The verdict, for now, is still in our hands.